morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily here on Channels Television. I'm Kayla Megwa. What a beautiful day we're having here in the nation's capital. We're not quite sure what's going on. It rains and then it feels a little dry. So it's most likely that the dry season is upon us. So we're looking forward to that. How are you and how is your day going? Well, it's going to be just me today. But trust me, we're going to have a great time together. We'll start off with our skyline this morning. And where are we going? Taraba State. This lake, EB Lake in Taraba State. A very exciting story about this place. Lots of history in this area. You know, one of the things that people don't know, apart from the fact that Taraba is a very historic town, is the fact that they do a lot of cotton in this part of the country. In fact, there have been cotton gins established in Taraba State since 1920s. You know, because they were doing a lot of cotton farming in the area. But of course, what we know from the years that have gone by is that a lot of fishing happens in this place. And this lake is very responsible for a lot of that activity. People who need this lake to survive make up a vast majority of the residents of this area. And look at that view. Just absolutely beautiful, very calming. Not sure if it's that calming when you're on the ground because a lot of business happens around this lake. But a lovely, peaceful view for us this morning from Taraba State. The weather, by the way, in Taraba is about 26 degrees Celsius. And humidity is pretty humid, 86%. And the wind is at just 3 kilometers per hour. So everyone in Taraba, good morning. Take it easy and see if you can enjoy your day as we bask in the beauty of the EB Lake that is gracing our screens right now. Preservation. How do we make this place? Well, it is a tourist attraction. The governor, Gov'ship, has been talking a lot about what's going to be happening at this lake. So, you know, it's a tourist attraction, but how do we make it bigger? How do we make it even safer? How do I feel safe traveling to Taraba State so that I can enjoy this view or enjoy these, you know, the activities that happen around this lake? Something I'm really looking forward to. So that is our skyline this morning, EB Lake in Taraba State. All right, well, we have quite a lot of things happening in the nation's capital today. We have some business coming up, but let's start off with this one. And it's because everyone has been talking about the Edo elections. Well, we do have an update. We'll start off with the PDP. Mr. Aswe Igodalo is reportedly supposed to submit this petition, so to speak, at the INEC headquarters this morning. So the Edo State aftermath. Is it going to... What's going to happen? What's going to happen in the coming days and the coming weeks? Well, we'll be there at INEC today to find out exactly what is going on and what the complaint is going to contain. I mean, a lot of people have been very worried about the elections in Edo State. We've heard from Mr. Aswe Igodalo himself and, of course, everyone, all the other parties complaining about the process and what's happened there. What they think has happened there. The All Progressives Congress has a different side of the story. It will come up in our conversations today. So that will be happening today. Also happening today, Yaga Africa. They've been in the news for a few days now. Everyone has been talking about Edo State, and they got a response from the All Progressives Congress yesterday. We'll talk about that in the course of our conversation today. But Yaga Africa, the EU media briefing on Citizens' Memorandum on Electoral Reform that will be holding today in the nation's capital. And I'm sure people will want to ask, and maybe some of the journalists who will be at this program today, at this briefing today, would have the opportunity to ask questions. Yaga doesn't shy away from answering questions, at least that's what we know for now. So when journalists are there today, they might want to ask them their response to what the All Progressives Congress said to them yesterday, basically telling them, don't be meddlesome, you have your lines, don't cross them. Did they cross any lines? How do they feel about the All Progressives Congress saying that to them? Well, I hope that comes up at the briefing today. But election reform happening today in the nation's capital. And in business, everybody is talking about the outcome of the CBN's Monetary Policy Committee meeting yesterday. Reactions to the 50 basic points hike on the NPR. What does this mean for manufacturing? What does this mean for the Nigerian? What does this mean for unemployment? We see that so there are varying opinions. Some experts are very worried about the future of this country as long as these figures continue to persist. But then there are people who believe this is a step in the right direction on our way to El Dorado. Is it? Find out. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the program. But when Business Morning comes up on Sunrise Daily, we will be having that conversation. Well, those are some of the major stories that are happening today in the nation's capital. Let's take you through the newspaper headlines this morning. The outcome of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee meeting yesterday makes the major headlines this morning. This Nigeria leads with CBN's 27.25% new interest rate, bleak future for businesses. Daily Independent also leads with the rising cost of living, Nigerians grappling with realities of soaring living costs, according to the Senate President Gov'ship. Says challenges are testing the very fabric of our society. The Blueprint newspaper this morning also talks about the rise in the interest rate. Experts differ as CBN raises lending rate to 27.25%. And then we have the Daily Times newspaper taking a different angle. Nigerian army dismisses a female soldier who accused senior officers of sexual harassment. Very interesting story there from the Daily Times. The Vanguard also leading with the CBN's MPC meeting outcome. Unemployment is the angle that they're looking at. Unemployment up by 5.3% as the Central Bank of Nigeria hikes interest rate to 27.25%. More on that from page 5 of the Vanguard. Bottom of that paper, reactions trail Dangote's call for petrol subsidy removal. The Guardian newspaper looks at jobs. Growing jobless, self-employed Nigerians dim tax potential. More details on that from page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Nigerian News Direct, again, the CBN increases interest rate to 27.25%. Decision to further tighten interest rate unanimous, says Cardoso. NPR hike will slow down investments and economic growth, according to experts. Differing perspectives there, but more on that from page 6 of the Nigerian News Direct. The Nigerian Tribune also leads with the economy. Concerns as CBN raises interest rate to 27.25%. Manufacturers to continue paying high interest rates. Tightening of MPC detrimental to investment and economic growth, according to the CCPE. Nasima expresses concern. Lists impact on businesses, inflation. Over 4 million Nigerians unemployed in 2023, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. And we're seeing also from the Nigerian Tribune the Edo election. Observers should not usurp INEC's roles. APC carpets Yaga Africa. That story is on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. The Daily Trust is leading with the story from the Army that we talked about earlier. Army discharges female soldier who accused officer of sexual advances. Cites mental challenge, exonerates colonel of allegation. And the Women Affairs Ministry is silent. And of course, we have that story from the Senate President at the bottom of that newspaper. Nigerians grappling with hardship, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And these are the headlines from the newspapers this morning. I mean, quite a lot to talk about in the headlines today, but I want to start off with the Punch newspaper. And I know it's not going to inform most of our conversations today. That's why I'm going to bring it up right now. And it's a follow-up on the interview we had here on Channels Television. Remember, yesterday on Sunrise Daily, we had Chamberlain also having an interview, a very in-depth interview with the Minister of State for Defense, Mr. Bello Matawale, and it was one that left a lot of us worried, a lot of us concerned about our country and what's going on. What were these things we were hearing? Well, governance may be a little distant from the people. And so for some people who've been talking since yesterday, when you get into governance, the The intricacies are a little bit more complex. It's not as idealistic as you would want it to be. But there were a lot of things said in that interview that really gave us a lot of cause for concern. But what I'm seeing from the Punch newspaper, page 20 of the Punch newspaper is actually where I'm bringing this from. Banditry, the Zamfara governor reports the defense minister to the NSA. We're seeing that from the Punch newspaper. It's a very interesting one. If you want to be able to look at that, you can go get that. Then the Nation newspaper, also looking at the APC lashing Yaga Africa for the subjective reports on the Edo poll. So the Nation newspaper this morning, the APC chided Yaga Africa. That was a statement that all of us read yesterday and wondered what's going on, who crossed whose path, and who has upset who. So the Nation newspaper has that story as well. I think there's more on it from page 2 of the Nation today. APC lashing Yaga Africa for subjective reports on the Edo poll. And you know, Yaga has a program coming up today. So we're hoping that we get a response from Yaga Africa on what it is that was said to them by the All Progressives Congress. Did they cross the line? And then the Daily Trust with this story. In fact, what even piqued my interest in this story is the fact that one of the things written there is that the Women Affairs Ministry is silent. Should the Women Affairs Ministry be silent? Is this something that the Women Affairs Ministry should probably wade into? What's the story here? It's a story that we've heard in passing about this female soldier who accused officers of sexual advances. Page 4 of the Daily Trust has more on that story. Well, they're citing mental challenge. What we heard from the military yesterday was that she was discharged with benefits, with, disability benefits. So, what are the details? Was there some sort of, medical, exam done that really states that this lady was mentally challenged? And what's happened? What's this story all about? Well, I'm going to be reading more from page 4. I mean, we've heard from the military. We're seeing it in the papers today. So let's get all of the information out. But there, Women Affairs Ministry silent. Should they be saying anything? Should they wade into the matter? Should they look into it? Is it something they should probably check up on and say something? Because it is a woman involved. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out what the response will be. Maybe they will remain silent, or maybe they'll say something. We don't know. But those are some of the stories that piqued my interest. The Daily Trust is also carrying this Zamfara Lawa Matawale feud getting messier. So a lot to pick on the newspapers this morning. So get yourself a copy and then, of course, update yourself on what's going on in the country. Those are the stories we're looking at this morning. We'll be back in a few minutes with the conversations that would have to center around the CBN and the Edo elections. Stay with us.
It's the season of interest rate setting globally, and as a battle to tame inflation continues in most economies, some central bankers are nearing their inflation targets. Back here in Nigeria, after 2 consecutive months of slowing inflation rate, the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee held its 297th meeting.
It's on point at about 2 p.m.
Expectations from experts was that the MPC would pause its aggressive rate hiking cycle. But to the surprise of markets and analysts, the MPC raised lending rate by a jumbo 50 basis points.
The committee was unanimous in its decision to further tighten policy.
With this latest hike in lending rates, the Nigerian economy has experienced 8.5% increase from the 18.75% Mr. Olayemi Cardoso met since assuming the office as central bank governor in September 2023. Since then, inflation rate is up from 26.72% to 32.15% in August 2024.
Between 2015 and 2023, the past 8 years, witnessed an incredible amount of pumping of liquidity into the system. In other words, you had a situation where the response to excess money supply, little foreign exchange available, was to fix exchange rates, okay, which now resulted in multiple exchange rates and arbitrage opportunities between one and the other, okay? And of course, this in itself resulted in a backlog of foreign exchange, because this is where all these things have come from. And sometimes people forget that this is the context in which we came into the saddle of the central bank.
As the cost of borrowing continues to trend up and the fight against inflation intensifies in Nigeria, mixed reactions trail what the impact will be on households and businesses.
Historically, the trend has been hiking, so I was just kind of hopeful that they may take a breather, but hiking because of the underlying fundamentals from the CBN's perch perhaps makes sense.
It's clear that the increase in energy costs is going to cause more inflation. They are trying to hedge that off. As the CBN governor also mentioned, the gains we have seen from reduction in food inflation coming from the harvest season might not be one that holds.
With just one rate-setting meeting left in 2024, it's a wait-and-see game now, as some say Nigeria might not be out of the woods yet when it comes to taming stubborn inflation. Laddie Williams, reporting for Channels Television News.
Reporting there by Laddie Williams. And it's really got a lot of people worried about what the future of our country is going to be. With everything so difficult, what does this mean for the Nigerian? What does this mean for the Nigerian? Because we hear it, oh, they've increased lending rates. What does that mean? How does that affect manufacturing? How does that affect unemployment? We're seeing a lot of worrying headlines from the newspapers this morning, but I'm not alone to discuss this. Joining me right now, Mr. Jeff Ojinika. He's the National Chairman, Coalition for Change, former member of the House of Reps in the Fifth Assembly, and a member of the Labour Party. It's nice to have you with us on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let's start with this 50 basic points increase. Earlier, before the cameras stay rolling, you were saying it's common sense, and you don't know where everyone is going with this mindset. Talk to us a bit about this situation and what it means for several sectors.
Yeah, thank you. As I said, I'm not an economic expert, but I read basic economics in secondary school and during the last governorship election in Imo State. My local government is one of the local governments that were challenged by security. Nobody, majority of our people have. So they had to use police and army to gather people to one church, All Saints Church. And it was there that they came and did a mockery of what was likened to an election. They distributed materials there, and then they started, there was nothing like accreditation. They were thumb printing and all the rest of them. One young man walked up to me and said, Jeff, when we rig, we will continue to rig. There is nothing that you people can do. You understand? We rig, we keep rigging. There is nothing that you people can do. We're in charge of the police, we're in charge of the army, we're in charge of the courts. There is nothing that you people can do.
He said this here.
To my face.
What did you do?
So, that is the audacity.
Well, what did you do when he said that to you?
What will you do to him? A young man, somebody that in that local government, I was a vice chairman of that local government in 1994. That's about 30 years ago. I guess that young man that spoke to me by then may not have been born or were not in a secondary or had not entered primary school. I didn't have to begrudge him with a reply. But the most important thing is that the officers of the government, do you understand? Even the chief law officer of the state were there when all these things were being done. Are you getting me? So you see that it's not that what they are doing doesn't look strange, but What is now strange is the audacity of the rigging. The person the APC are saying go to court because they already know what is going to happen in the court. I happened to be in the tribunal the last time. And I will share it with you. And that is one of the experiences I will share with Nigerians. By the time a document was leaked, the time the case went to the appeal tribunals, a document was leaked as if it was emanating from the counsel of one of the judges, of one of the parties. And it was meant as a communication to maybe somebody at the control center where the judgments were being generated. And it so happened that the whole information that was leaked in terms of, they will say case number this, dismiss, this one, discharge, this one, and all the judgments that came out at the end of time, reflected that same directive that was given or the document that was leaked. So the most important thing is now is that it is the audaciousness, the audacity. In those days, you see how armed robbers usually, when we were very small, armed robbers, when they want to come to a house, they will come, they make a hole through the wall, they will bring in a calabash like 3-4 times and know whether the owner of the house is awake. If you hit the calabash, they will run away. But the situation we have now is that the armed robbers will now write you and give you a time, that at so time we are coming. The template, my sister, you see, started from Imo State. It has been transported to Edo, and they have given notice. They have also given notice to Ondo and Anambra. Wait for us, we are coming. The same template. People will go to the various booths to go and cast election. It doesn't matter. That thing they're doing there, it doesn't matter. Because who appoints the electoral, the ad hoc workers that go to generate these results? It is they are members of a political party. I can tell you the agonizing thing is that a lot of struggles, a lot of money, a lot of resources have been put to have a very good electoral law. And that was why a lot of people had confidence to be part of that process. We have the best. Today, INEC has a challenge to redeem their image. And that is that they have a window of 1 week. And they have all the systems, all the information to be able to review. They have been given powers to review.
Okay.
And that power of review is, look at your documents, look at all the things that come from the field, and be able to balance it. If there are mistakes, you correct them and announce the proper thing.
All right, let's have a conversation right now about the process and these accusations that you've made. The accusations that we've heard from a lot of people. Mr. Akpata made the same accusations after the Edo elections. Mr. Suegodalo is going as far as taking a complaint to INEC today in the nation's capital. Well, you see, the outrage, when people say, oh, I experienced this. I was at those elections, by the way, the one in Imo State. And you could see a lot of people complaining, making the same complaint. Look at what they are doing. Look at what they're doing. You see, it's one thing to complain about a situation. It's another thing to do something about it. And by do something about it, I don't mean fight anyone. But why not prepare for litigation? If there's substantial evidence that cannot be swept under the rug, then you've been able to make some impact, don't you think? As opposed to, look at what they're doing here. Look at what they have done there. I was told by, yes, these things may be true. But, you know, if we're going to make actual change, if we're going to hold people to account, why don't we invest in getting evidence that we can use for litigation? You know, because what happens really, especially, and it may not be right, but what many ruling parties do is they say it's hearsay. What's he talking about? They might even sue you. They might even sue you for libel. He can't substantiate what he's saying. What do you make of that? Moving from the outrage to planning action.
I can tell you that I'll share my experience with you in the last election. I did one of the most diligent prosecution because we had a situation where I clearly won the election in Osu, Oru East, and Olu Federal Constituency. But results were generated from Oru East. Fake results without beavers. At the end of time, we were able to tabulate the House member. I can say it anywhere because there are facts before the court. The person representing Olu, Osu, and Oru East Federal Constituency today secured only 171 valid votes, and we were able to prove it in court. And the way we proved it, in the court, we were able to produce beavers. We produced beavers. We brought the whole beavers to court. We brought INEC officials to speak on the beavers. We also brought beavers reports, the one from INEC, certified. We got them to also speak to it. We brought voters register from Oru East, about 58,000 pages document, certified. We brought witnesses to testify at all the points where we felt that they were harmed. There was really nothing. At the end of time, the tribunal relied on the Old Evidence Act. Old Evidence Act that has almost been overtaken by the new Electoral Act. As the reliance that the thing was not proved beyond nonsense. Justice. In a matter.
What was that statement? It wasn't proved beyond reasonable doubt?
That we were supposed to produce the whole thing for the whole polling unit. Okay. I said that these are points. When you know that a documentary evidence is shown that in a particular polling unit, that zero accreditation, you have 400 votes. Do you need to bring, who will you bring to come and when there's a documentary evidence to prove that zero accreditation, 400 votes. The new Electoral Act has said, in such a situation where there's a documentary evidence, you don't need to produce anybody to come and test. And also, even if you bring somebody and put the person on hold, it cannot counter, it cannot counter documentary evidence by oral evidence.
But the court wanted something else.
But the court wanted something else.
Okay.
What
the court wanted, was it something you couldn't get?
Let me shock you.
Okay.
Let me shock you. The greatest shock, wasn't even at the tribunal level, because all facts were before them. We produced everything. I got my judgment 3 months after, because what the Gumel committee came and announced, for every other person's case, they will say, you didn't produce Beaver's report, they will use it to you didn't produce a voters register, they will use it to dismiss. You didn't produce a Beaver's machine itself, they will use it to. In my own case, there was nothing to say. They came and announced, petition number this, dismissed, we'll give our reasons later. It was after about 3 months that my lawyer called me to say that they have notified them that the judgment is ready for collection. So you will see that the people making this assertion, and my case was one of the cases, I will tell you, in that this thing that was released, when you go there, you see this one dismissed. The people saying go to court, they already have, because they are already sure of what the judgment will be before going to court. They are already sure of what the judgment will be. Because when you go, they will not look at the facts. They will not go and look at trivialities. Were you able to do this? Were you able to? And what they will do now is that they will make it impossible for you, because they know you need voters register. They will make it impossible for you to get the voters register. All the INEC officials in Edo State now will all disappear. All of them by now will be locked up somewhere, and they are doctoring all the documents to match whatever results they were able to generate.
But that's the thing, you can't prove this.
I'm telling you that this is what happens.
Yes, but it has to be proven. That's the point.
So
the point is
and then this
hold on, Mr. Jeff. We cannot
all these
say,
documents that you need, they will make it practically impossible for me to get the voters register that was used for that general election in Imo State. It had to be from the headquarters, because they were on instruction. I was asked to pay 6 million officially for me to get it in Imo. I was ready to pay. They refused to release the document. I had to now use to get it from the INEC headquarters to be able to, and we are just very few that were able to get that voters register, because they know that if you don't get it, they will use it to knock off your distance. So the major thing is that the two greatest threats, and I have to, we are saying it, and it looks like a joke. People are toiling with this our hard-earned democracy. They are toiling with it. And the two major agencies that are toiling with this our democracy, I can tell you today, is the Independent National Electoral Commission. And secondly, the judiciary. The judiciary is toiling with this democracy. And at the end of time, everybody will live to regret it. Because this kind of, there have been elections in the past. There have been rigging in previous elections. But those riggings were done with some level of maybe armed robbers coming. When they see the owner of the house, they'll hide. But this one, the kind of audacity with which it is being done, it spells doom that I can tell you it will consume everybody. It will consume everybody, including the people who feel that they are benefiting from it today. And those are judicial officers and the INEC officers who are involved in this audacious rigging that will consume this country. Let me tell you, the economy is bad. All hands should have been on deck. I can tell you one of the things.
I want to be able to get you, because I just looked at it. We're actually running out of time.
I can tell you the thing. Nobody will ever go to any crime where they rig election to invest his money.
Let's talk a bit about what Asuego Dado is going to be doing today. At least from the reports we have, he's supposed to take a complaint to INEC. Do you think there's going to be? I mean, you've basically, reeled out your distrust for INEC.
We went through the same process.
Yes. So, is there going to be? Do you think that this complaint is going to take to INEC today? Hopefully, he does that. Do you think it's going to yield any results? Is there going to be any change? And then, when it comes to our electoral processes, do you think there's anything that's going to be done to make it even better?
Well, I will encourage him to go and prosecute to put up his petition, because it's a legal right. And INEC has within 1 week to be able to do this. But I can tell you, the present INEC, Mahmoud, the present INEC as consulted, cannot do anything. Just a toothless bulldog. They see no evil, they hear no evil, they will just release that and say, when you go now, they tell you that the tribunal is there, that there are no law court. When the facts are all before them, 0 accreditation, 400 votes. But the image is already battered. I don't think, and they are not after trying to improve on their image. That is the disappointing thing.
INEC feels differently. They believe that, look, there are processes involved in what we do. There's a process for elections. Hold on a second. There's processes involved in what we do. There's a way things are supposed to be done. You're just not following the actual process. You may be very passionate about how you feel, about what you want, but you're not following the actual processes. Same thing with the courts. Many judges and lawyers will tell you the same thing. Look, you may be very passionate. You may feel like you've been wronged, but the truth is you're in a court of law. You're not in a place where, we can just discuss how bad you feel and everyone sympathizes. No, you have to be able to prove it. And if it does feel like they keep shifting the goalpost, there's something you can do about that. You have no faith in it. He's laughing. You have no faith in this entire process at all.
The most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, because the most important thing is that we have to keep, democracy is a process, is not a destination, is a process. We must keep pushing. This same process of going for, we were the first to apply for this review. The first time that INEC has been given this power was in the last 2022 Electoral Act for them to, and in this last, they never used that power that they have been given to review. And review is nothing other than you check the document. You have from EC8A, where this 4,500 something polling units where results were generated. You check what was generated to your IREV from the booths. And then you now cross-match it with what is in 8B and 8C. 8B is the one, is at the level of, the problem doesn't come from the 8A. Where they have perfected in all this is that they wait for you to go and waste your time, do whatever thing you are doing in the booths. At 8B and 8C, they will now go, like in the case of Edo, you saw the documents going. It was in Oredo. It was 3 booths, 3 ward coalition officers, Ward 4, 5, and 7. Even people have gone to the extent of putting their numbers and then in collusion with the electoral officer of the place. They went, it was at those 3 levels that results were changed. And it is easy for INEC because the results, all the results from the 8As, that's from the booth, must match with what is there at the collation center. And all these things are computation. And the law has given them power, say, if you check this and it doesn't match, then the right thing, you will correct it and the right thing be announced. But if you go now, they will tell you that no, you should go to tribunal. Whereas the whole information needed is there.
We do have to talk about something else. One of the major issues we saw with the Edo election was vote buying, and it raised a very important question. I mean, yes, INEC and its processes and the distrust people have in the process and the court system. In fact, I'm seeing messages from people here who are saying that INEC doesn't work for the doesn't work for Nigerian people, it works for the government. I'm seeing a lot of comments like that. But let's talk about another issue that we faced with the Edo election, which was vote buying. And almost everyone who observed these elections, we even saw some arrests happen of people who were buying votes at the polling units. And it brings to mind something one of our guests said recently about the weaponization of poverty and using it in politics. With the way things are going, we just saw what's happened with the MPC report. And looking at the impact it's going to have on several sectors, are we looking right now at a 2027 where more people will be below the poverty line, making it easier for them to sell their votes?
Well, I think the issue, for me, considering the grievous nature and the gravity of what has happened in our electoral process, the issue of vote buying is just a very minimal, negligible issue.
You think so?
Yes, I consider it very negligible in the sense that for someone that can go and sit in one place and generate all the results that they needed, does he need to come to even start paying you or giving you money for anything? That money that you use to go and spend, to go and buy voters to come and you better go and give it to one electoral officer who will go and generate all the results for you. My sister, in the Imo State governorship election, as early as 10 o'clock, some results have already been generated and uploaded in the IREV.
Proof.
No, they were there, online.
Proof.
No, they were there already. They were there already.
It has to be proven.
You understand? So, and the implication is that election has not ended by 10 o'clock. Election ends by 2 o'clock. But before then, so if you see the level that this issue had gone to, then if you are talking of issue of vote buying, it will just be trivializing the situation we find ourselves.
Really, because hold on a second. You're saying that it's a minute problem, but the truth is, from various election observers, from journalists on the ground, this seems to be a real problem. If it is easier to give an INEC official money, help me to doctor these results. Why are they spending so much money giving people from 10,000 to 30,000 naira the elections?
It's to give a semblance that there is something happening.
You think vote buying is a smoke screen?
It's even to give a semblance that there is something happening, you know, that something is being... So for me, vote buying is the least of the issues that we have. Because in some clients, some people, you can still give the person the money, you will take it and go and vote where he rightly wanted to vote. Because if INEC can control it, there were measures there. The movement in making it impossible for you to snap, not going there with camera. A lot of measures have been put in place to curb vote buying, even if you pay people, because you will know where they voted. But all these measures, I think, are not really the major, the problem. The problem is that INEC is not committed into giving Nigerians a very credible election. And the thing is that they are not meant to, because we politicians are appointed to be umpires. There is no, like if you come to Imo State, there is no difference between the APC in Imo State and the INEC office. No difference. In fact, the posting comes from the government house. Even the resident electoral commissioner there is just a nominal head. They will finish and they will just to go and rubber stamp. The reason was that when she was being appointed, people raised that, say, this is the younger sister of the APC Deputy National Chairman, Nemo. And they were the people that nominated. So by the time she was being sent there to go and work for the party. So we're just fooling ourselves.
You think the same thing happened in Edo?
So, and...
because we had the wreck. We had the wreck here. He said they
shouted that he's from the reverse axis.
He said, when we had him here on this program, he said, look, the fact that I'm related to Wike does not mean that I will not work again in this country. I'm a Nigerian. I'm not from Cameroon. I am allowed to have a job. And I have given my word that I will not be partial. You think he shouldn't have...
This is the same thing that I tell you that it is called audacity of rigging. In such a situation, if you have, it's the kind of thing that happens, if your integrity is put at stake or questioned, if you're an umpire, and some of the parties doubt you are distant, the normal thing to do is to recuse yourself.
How many things will you recuse yourself?
No, for him.
So in his case, is he to be punished because he's Wike's cousin?
It is not punishment. That you were asked not to preside over this election is not a punishment, my sister. When somebody says, I must do this work, then there is something there. Because ordinarily, if they say, you are a referee, and some of the parties say, we don't trust you. Do you understand? To be very, in this election. What do you do? Please, get another person, let me step aside.
Because there's a conflict of interest.
But for someone to come and insist that I must do it, it shows that these people, there's no way they have not done a mockery. The INEC has not done a mockery of this, our electoral process.
We do have to go now, and I'm sure this is a conversation that we'll have again, but I want to thank you so much, Mr. Jeff for being with us on the program. Business Morning is coming up shortly. Thank you so much, National Chairman, Coalition for Change. Thank you so much for being with us here in the studio this morning.
Thank you.
Business Morning is up next on Sunrise Daily. We'll be back afterwards. Stay with us.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start from the global space. Oil prices fell on Wednesday as investors reassess the ability of China's stimulus plans to boost the economy enough to drive more fuel demand growth in the world's second largest economy and largest crude importer. Taking a look at the number, we see a drop, a big flip from what we had yesterday. Remember yesterday about this time, oil, both crude features were up more than 1%. Well, that's different from the picture that we have this morning. This morning we see a 0.25% drop for Brent, $74.98 a barrel, while WTI is also down 0.39%. And this is about, how many cents here? This is about 28 cents that it has dropped, while this one is about 19 cents. It has dropped this morning. Now, some factors driving prices, apart from that China stimulus, which was a major one yesterday, aggressive economic stimulus, biggest since the COVID-19 pandemic, with interest rate cuts and government funding. So it was a whole package coming from China affecting the markets right there. There's also the U.S. oil stockpiles that dropped by 4.34 million barrels last week, while gasoline, the numbers just came out yesterday, while gasoline inventories also fell 3.44 million barrels, and distillate stock also went down by 1.12 million barrels, and these numbers are from the American Petroleum Institute released on Tuesday. We also have an intensifying conflict in the Middle East. That's also a factor still driving oil prices at this time, between Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel. Also supported crude prices with cross-border rockets launched by both sides, increasing fears of a broadening war in key producing region. Hezbollah has confirmed that their senior commander, Ibrahim Qubaisi, was killed by Israel airstrikes on the Lebanese capital, as Israel announced earlier. And Israel has said that Qubaisi headed the group's missile and rocket forces. So, in the coming days, we'll see the impact that will have. Don't forget hurricane threatening the United States Gulf Coast. That has changed course towards Florida and away from the oil and gas producing areas near Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi. So we'll see how all of this feed into price movement in the coming days. Now let's look at the Naira. Yesterday was, of course, a major day for the country. Decision day is what it was. Let's see what the Naira did yesterday. We see NAFEM yesterday. It went down, beg your pardon, lost more than 6%. There, 1,562.66 kobo is what the market opened with the Naira, but closed at 1,658.40. This is the third consecutive drop in spite of intervention by the central bank. A worrying situation, but I don't know if you did watch our news at 10 yesterday, and I think we also had Mr. Wani earlier in the day yesterday, and he said that perhaps one of the fears, a driving factor of the drop in the value of Naira, in spite of the intervention by the central bank, may be that there's uncertainty as to when the intervention from the central bank will come. So we do applaud the Dutch auction system that the central bank has reintroduced into the market, but the uncertainty of when that intervention would come may be a factor. That's the observation of Mr. Bismarck Rwani. So we saw this big drop in the value of the Naira on the day that there was a huge increase on the MPR, 50 basis points. Unexpected, very unexpected. We'll talk about that later. Well, on NAFEX yesterday was a gain, minimal, 0.06%. So while it opened at 1,659 Naira 66 kobo, it closed at 1,658 Naira 74 kobo. Not a very beautiful picture we would see for the Naira yesterday. Now we look at unemployment figures for the first quarter of this year. That was released also by the National Bureau of Statistics. See right there, unemployment went up. And it's a new parameter or system that's being used by NBS to measure this. So it went up to 5.3% from 5% in the third quarter. So I asked myself, this is data made available by the National Bureau of Statistics, why are we comparing the first quarter of 2024 to the third quarter of 2023? It should be quarter on quarter at least. So, confusing right there, because it doesn't give you the full picture of the movement if you don't have the last quarter of 2023 to compare to 2024 first quarter. But, I guess the bottom line is there was an increase in unemployment right there. Workers in wage employment went up. There's workers that do salary, mostly wage employment, went up to 16%. That's a 3.3% increase from what it was in the third quarter of 2023, which was 12.7%. Participation rate of working age, but that's people who are available to work. Participation rate, working age population went down. People who are available to do work went down to 77.3%. In the first quarter of this year, it used to be 79.5% in the third quarter of last year. I think we do have more. The proportion of workers in, that's employment to population ratio, that's comparing the full population and those in employment, 73 in the first quarter. That's a decrease of 2.4% compared to what it was in the third quarter of 2023. Unemployment rate among persons with post-secondary school was 9% in the first quarter of 2024. Unemployment rate among youth aged between 15 and 24 was 8.4% in the first quarter. That's a drop from what it was as unemployment among people between 15 and 24 years dropped. And then the unemployment rate in urban areas was 6%, the same as it was in the third quarter. So these are the numbers, data released by the NBS on the status, unemployment status in the country. But I mean, as I said earlier, it would have been good to compare quarter on quarter at least, to help give us a better picture of our reality. Now, yesterday was decision day by the MPC, Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And I know you saw the report earlier that Ladi Williams put together. Now, let's give you another aspect of it, which is the issue of money supply, which the central bank governor says is a major driver of inflation in the country and a focus for the central bank and the MPC.
We're working very, very closely. We're engaging with all the deposit money banks to ensure that they are putting these things through their ATMs, effectively dispensing cash to those that are in need. And whether they are in need or not, that's the function of the deposit money banks. That at all points in time, there should be sufficient cash in their system, that nobody should go there without being able to withdraw. We ourselves have got in place a monitoring system. We have devised a monitoring system, a spot checking system, whereby we will go to the banks and just ensure that these things are done in the way and manner in which they are meant to be done. And if they are not, again, there'll be sanctions. But I believe that the stage we are in now, everybody realizes that the various stakeholders must play their part in ensuring that cash gets to the desired places that we intend them to be.
So now we have it, CBN governor in Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, pointing out it was one of the questions asked. And of course, we do remember it's a year since he's been in office holding that position. So it was, looking back at where he's coming from, how things were when he came in, and gave a lot of explanation on that. But let's delve into this much more with Dr. Muda Yusuf, the CEO of Center for Private Enterprises Promotion. Dr. Muda Yusuf joins us virtually from Lagos. Dr. Yusuf, good morning.
Good morning, Ine.
Yes.
A pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with you where you're happy that there's been an interest rate hike. So I wonder how you're feeling now that it was so unexpected. I mean, one would have thought even if there was going to be a hike, it would at least be 25 basis points, a quarter of a percent, not half of a percent. But I mean, according to the CBN governor, a lot of considerations came into place. Top on the list is the cost of energy, which we see has skyrocketed in the last couple of weeks, less than a month now. So, I mean, what comes to mind, Dr. Yusuf, on this 50 basis points interest rate hike?
Well, from my own point of view, the latest hike by the central bank is very difficult to justify, particularly in the context in which both the citizens and businesses are operating right now. If there's anything we need in this economy from a policy perspective, I think it's policy measures that will bring relief to citizens and to businesses. Because things are already extremely very tight. I mean, you cannot have a more tighter monetary policy environment than what we already have. So if you have a situation where businesses in particular are struggling with depreciating currency, they are struggling with high energy costs, they are struggling with high costs of logistics, and already interest rates are already high. So if in this situation we are now hiking interest rates and it's still retaining the asymmetric corridor at plus 500 basis points, that means the MPR can go as far as 32.5%. You know, then we also have the CRR moving up to 50%. I don't think with the kind of environment in which we are and with the performance of GDP in Q2, many of the sectors slowed. You know, the critical sectors of the economy slowed in Q2. You know, if you look at the GDP numbers, we have some contraction in some key sectors. Some major sectors are still in recession. So if the economy needs anything at this time, I think we should be looking more in the direction of stimulus, both from the monetary side and from the fiscal side, and even from trade policy side. There are also issues about the cost of clearing cargo at the ports. So we can't be, you know, the burden is extremely too much.
But Dr.
So
Yusuf,
I don't think this is very justifiable intervention.
But Dr. Yusuf, it is you economists that say we cannot have growth in the face of high inflation. And so the central bank have decided to tackle inflation because, I mean, they looked at the issue of energy costs, which we know is going to feed into the next inflation number. Then they also looked at the issue of the flood, which we know affected food and is going to affect food supply. And so this means that most likely the next set of data we will get is going to show an increase in inflation. And they put this as a reason of consideration.
Now, how will the hike in interest rates now reduce the energy cost? How will the hike on interest rates now reduce the challenge or shortage of food supply that has been inflicted by flood? What is the connection? What is the impact? I don't quite agree with that. And the CBN also talked about excess liquidity. Where is the excess liquidity coming from? Is it coming from investors? Is it coming from entrepreneurs? When many businesses are already cash-strapped. He admitted that this liquidity is coming from the public sector. Can't we have a way of fixing it at the level of the public sector? So that you don't cause the private sector, investors, entrepreneurs to be paying the price for a crime that they didn't commit. The entrepreneurs were not responsible for the excess liquidity. Now you tighten monetary policy, you increase the MPR, you increase the CRR at asymmetric corridor at 500 plus 500 basis points around the MPR. It is the investor that will pay the price for this. And this may not necessarily even achieve this objective. I think we should have allowed the fiscal policy measures at least to begin to get activated, and let's see how far we go with that. Already there are some measures that are being put in place. What we are waiting for is faster implementation of those fiscal policy measures. I think that will give us a lot more relief than further tightening of monetary policy. I don't think we can justify these latest steps that have been taken by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The economy doesn't need this kind of intervention at this time, particularly businesses.
All right, so Dr. Yusuf, in summary, how would you capture 1 year of Mr. Olayemi Kadoso as CBN governor? I know there's been reforms that have had, you know, both positive and not so positive impacts. For instance, the gap between the parallel and the official market, we've seen that reduce. But in your words, how would you capture his 1 year? Even though I know that it's been more of hikes, but how would you describe it?
Well, it's a mixed bag, really. At least we have seen an improvement in transparency, improvement in corporate governance and all of that. We have seen some measure of stability. But again, I think the governor needs to define the boundaries of how far we should be pushing these market principles, this monetary approach to economic management. Because the structure of financial markets in Nigeria and in many developing countries is not the same thing as what you have in Europe or in America. So the model of intervention cannot be exactly the same. So I think we need to continuously recalibrate some of these monetary policy measures, including even the foreign exchange policy measures. We need to recalibrate it, review it in the light of the experience that we have. Because no two economies are the same. So the models cannot be the same. We have seen some improvement, but I mean, the CBN has been driving the economy almost to the extreme of monetary principles, of market principles, which I don't think is working well for the economy so far.
All right, Dr. Muda Yusuf, thank you so much for your views this morning. Chief Executive Officer of Center for Promotion of Private Enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now let's switch now and talk about pineapples. Have you ever given thought to the potentials in pineapples? Well, there seems to be an individual who has done that. We'll tell you about that after this video, which introduces us to that conversation.
Problem that has persisted for over 5 decades, which Davidola is solving right now: the importation of pineapple fruit and pineapple fruits concentrate. To solve this problem, Davidola is currently developing and managing one of the biggest pineapple farm estates in Africa. This gives every individual an opportunity to own a pineapple farmland with as low as 500,000 naira initial deposit, whilst earning 36% rent per annum. In few months from now, Davidola will unveil the biggest pineapple fruits concentrate factory in West Africa, and the factory will offer job opportunities to nothing less than 10,000 Nigerians, including direct and indirect labor. There is need to continue expanding our pineapple farm to increase our capacity in terms of production, and you can be a part of this revolution by becoming a pineapple landowner today. For more inquiries, please call
That's it. So we'll give you more information now with Ambassador Segun Alabi. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Davidola Nigeria Limited. He's also the founder of the farms. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Ambassador Alabi, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great. So, I mean, it just seems so far-fetched that you would think of pineapples. I guess the first question would be, what interests you in pineapple?
Yeah, Davidola is an agric company that specializes in pineapple farming. And then the pineapple is a product or is a produce that is very scarce in Nigeria. And I tell you today that Nigeria still imports pineapple because the value chain in pineapple is enormous. And that is what Davidola is doing, to add more value to Nigeria economy by producing pineapple to the extent that we'll be able to export pineapple. That is what we do.
So, and we see that you have the farm. What do you do on the farm? And I mean, the video we played just before is talking about how people can also participate. Could you tell us about that?
Okay, thank you so much. Davidola have a pineapple farm estate behind Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ago Iwoye, Ogun State. And we give individual and corporate organization an opportunity to own a pineapple farm with us. It's like, or you have an estate where you sell house or land to people. So what Davidola does is to sell a pineapple farm estate to individual and corporate organization so that you can become a pineapple farm owner with us. And with this, you get a return per annum, a rent per annum. And how does it work? For example, now, if you have 1 acres or 1 plot of pineapple farm estate, for pineapple farm in our estate. Currently, the cost of pineapple farm per plot is 2.5 million naira. So when you make those payments, we give you a portion, either 1 plot, 2 plot, 1 acre. You become owner with a registered document. What do I mean by registered document? You get your deed of assignment, you get your registered survey, just normal documents you will get when you own a house or a land, because this pineapple farm belongs to you forever. And then we help you manage it, because one of the vision of Davidola is to make Nigeria exporter of pineapple. Currently, Nigeria is the 8th largest producer of pineapple in the world. But even with all of these things, we still import pineapple. And when you look at the level of unemployment in Nigeria, one of the ways to solve this unemployment is through agriculture. And then what Davidola is working towards is to empower 50,000 Nigerians in pineapple farming. You know what that can be. You know what that can, the value it can add to our economy. Because today now, like I listened to you earlier on talking about inflation and the level of unemployment in Nigeria, agriculture is one of the major ways to actually reduce this unemployment. And this is what Davidola is doing, to use everything we have in pineapple farming. For example, now if you buy 1 acre now, you are empowered. You're not just buying a property. You are also empowering Nigerians to be free from unemployment. So what Davidola does is to manage all these resources to take Nigeria from level of where we are now to where we're supposed to be. Because Nigerian pineapple, especially the one from Davidola farm, is the sweet, I can say is the sweetest. When you taste our pineapple and you taste the one from other countries, you know that we produce better. So if you have all this capacity, all this knowledge, then we should use it to empower people, why people who owns this pineapple farm are also making a profit on it. And we pay per annum, just like you are expecting your rent every end of the year or middle of the year, depending on when you have an agreement. For example, now today is 25th of September 2024. If you buy a property from us today, pineapple farm estate from us today, by this time next year, you get your rent. And if you look at the video that has been played, you will discover that there's a lot of things there. You will see different names. But I always tell people that Davidola Farms is another Nigeria on its own, because in our farm you have people who are Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Shekiri, diverse language. Because until we come together and then form a kind of partnership, we may not going forward, because you can't grow in isolation. So this is what Davidola does. We give opportunity to individual organization, NGO, to be part of this move to empower 50,000 Nigeria. And how we can get this done is by you becoming one of the owners of the pineapple farm in Davidola Pineapple Farm Estate. And today now, if you stay to the end of this program, we are going to give a promo. There's a promo awaiting everyone who is present right here today. Thank you.
All right, just before you get to that promo, could you help people understand how it works? So you pay annually, like people are paying rent. Do people know the percentage of their investment that they get? And you said it's forever. So, so even after this harvest, then you plant again and help the person manage, every season, or is that how it works?
All right, thank you so much. Now, if you buy a plot, today a plot is 2.5 million naira. Now, you get 36% of that per annum as your rent because you are the owner, you are buying a property. You are not just, this is not a Ponzi scheme. You are buying a property that the Vidola is managing for you. So if you pay the 2.5 million naira, you get 36% every year. If you calculate 36% of 2.5 million, that's about 900,000 naira. Then we manage that farm for you for a period of 5 years. After 5 years, what happened? After 5 years, you have three options. The first option, you might say, okay, I want you guys to continue managing my property for me for another 5 years. In the event of that, your 36% now will not be calculated on the 2.5 anymore. It's going to be calculated on the value of that property as at that time. Let's assume that in the next 5 years now, the worth of that property is now 5 million naira. It means your 36% will now be calculated on the 5 million naira. And that's what you are going to be collecting for the next 5 years as your rent. The second option may say, okay, after those 5 years, I want to sell my property. And in the event of this, David Dollar is the first refuser, which means David Dollar is the one that will even buy it from you, which means the property you are buying, you have a buyer that will buy it. And at the same time, you are going to sell at a prevailing market value at that 5 years. The last one is that you might say, okay, I have retired from my job and now I just want to take over my farm and be managing it by myself. If you also do that, David Dollar is also there for you. And one good thing about pineapple is because in the couple of months now, David Dollar will be unveiling the largest, one of the largest pineapple concentrates in the world, which we consume 100 metric tons of pineapple per day. This is a whole lot. And the value chain in pineapple is enormous. From beginning to the end, the value chain is what you cannot even finish explaining. Thank you.
All right, so some people watching this would say, oh, it's another Nigerian story. We've heard of people being scammed and all of that. What assurance are you giving to people who may be interested in this, that actually their investment is safe for 5 years, or if they even want to do longer?
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, it is not. Yes, we have seen a lot of people who have used one way or the other to take money from people selling property, never do allocation, and then they will run away with people's money. David Dollar has been in this business now for over 8 years. And if you follow us on our Instagram, Davidola_farms, you will see a whole lot of a track record. Every 5 or 3 months, we do allocation for people, which is a very good period to even access everything. Now, David Dollar Farms, number one, we are insured. That is number one. Secondly, one of the reasons why people fail in agriculture is as a result of when cow eats your farm. Now, pineapple cow doesn't eat pineapple anytime, any day. Second, another point that gives you assurance is when you have a product that is very scarce in supply, then you have a market, because the Nigeria still imports pineapple, while we have a land that can thrive when it's come to pineapple farming. So in all indication, you are secure.
All right, we're almost out of time, but you did mention that you have a promo for those who may be interested. Please, if you could just share that briefly.
I didn't get that.
You did say earlier that you have a promo for those who would watch to the end. So we're almost out of time. If you could do it briefly and tell the people what promo you were talking about.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, for the first 200 people that we call this number, 08116464307 on WhatsApp. Let me say it again, 08116464307. Now, for the first 200 that we key into this opportunity, instead of you paying 2.5 million naira, we are giving you for 2 million naira per plot. 2 million naira per plot. And then for the documentation, because the 2.5 or 2 million naira you are paying, we are calculating your rent on the purchase price. Now, for the documentation is 300,000 naira, which covers for the legal agreement, deed of assignment, and registered survey. This one is different from the purchase price. So for these 200 people that we call the number, or make inquiry, or say, oh, I'm interested, on our social media, Davidola_farm on the Instagram, or go to our website, www.davidolafarms. The first 200 people will be discounted for 2 million naira. And then next week now we are having another allocation, and then you can be part of this.
All right, Ambassador Segun Alabi, we wish you the best in your endeavor. Chief Executive Officer of Davidola Nigeria Limited, also founder of Davidola Farms. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So that's it. We're out of time, actually. Thank you, Kayla, for being so kind. I want to believe that we hand over back now to the Sunrise Daily. Do remember 1 p.m. Ladi Williams will be here with Aniti Edet to give you 55 minutes of good business. Bye-bye.
That as a party, as a law-abiding party in the state, that we will not be part of the purported local government election that they have slated on the 5th of October. That was the resolution of the party. All the stakeholders, major stakeholders, we met, and we resolved that we will not be part of that election. Reasons being that a few months ago there was a suit instituted by the APC. We were not part of that suit. But as a law-abiding party, we had the hint that an order was issued by the court restraining the parties that status quo remains the same, that RISEC should not go ahead with the election. As a party, we have met and we have agreed. What election are we going for? When voters register is not being released to the RISEC, security agencies are not going to be part of the election. And based on that, the party said we are not going to be part of that purported election because we believe in rule of law. I didn't say that I will not as an individual. I say we resolved in that meeting, in the stakeholders meeting. In that resolution, the LGA party chairmen were part of the meeting. The LGA secretaries were part of the meeting. Women leaders were part of the meeting. The major stakeholders of our party in Rivers State were part of the meeting. National Assembly members were part of the meeting. House of Assembly were part of the meeting. So it was a collective decision that we agreed this morning that we are not going to be part of the election. Talking about what chairman, when their leaders are there, each ward in this state has a leader, and they were fully represented in the meeting.
That's Mr. Aaron Chukwuemeka, the state party chair of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State. We're going to be talking now about the local government elections, or at least planned local government elections in Rivers State. They're supposed to hold on October the 5th. Will they hold? There's so many ups and downs with the PDP and, of course, with the APC, with rumors of many of the members of the PDP moving to the APP. And then, of course, we're hearing right now with the PDP saying we're not going to be part of this because of this suit. Well, the Rivers State INEC office basically say nothing is stopping this election from holding on October the 5th. And they're citing this Supreme Court judgment. Said, look, that Supreme Court judgment supersedes whatever it is that everyone else is saying, stopping us from doing this election? So let's get all of the details. We're moving now to join our guest here via Zoom, the Publicity Secretary of Rivers PDP, Dr. Kenneth Yowika. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Let's talk about these elections. Should they hold or shouldn't they hold? We've seen the stand of your party already. My question is, should those elections hold?
Well, if they claim to be law-abiding citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, law-abiding citizens of any state, then the elections should not hold.
Why not?
Well, you've just heard very clearly from the state party chairman, my party chairman, Honorable Chukwemeka Aaron, DSSRS, that because there was a court order by the All Progressive Congress that had not gotten a final ruling. And since this has not been done, as a law-abiding party, we would want to wait until when such is being done, until the court gives a final ruling to that decision. And if this has not been done, then the People's Democratic Party, a law-abiding party that it is, will not go into such an election, because at the end, it will be in futility. So just like you had the leaders of the party, you saw the leaders that flanked the party chairman in that stakeholders meeting. They took that decision and said, listen, if we do not have a final court ruling concerning this issue, then we should not partake in an election that at the end will come to futility. And that is the stance of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State. We will not be part of the elections of 5th October 2024.
When you say come to futility, what do you mean?
Yes, because at the end, the law will take its course. Anything that is not done in a justifiable manner, at the end, the decision of the court will come into sway. And what is supposed to be done rightly will be done. So we feel that at the end, if they do not do what is right, then it will not end well for those that have contested such an election.
Some people believe that this is all about the power structure in Rivers State and the impasse between the former governor, Minister Wike, and Mr. Fubara. And basically, many people believe that the reason why all of this is happening right now is because these local government elections will determine the power structure in Rivers State. And if Fubara, stays as governor and, mans over this election at the local levels, that power structure may officially move from Wike to Fubara. And because of that, they say a lot of you are stalling and using that APC court case as an excuse.
I do not know where you'll be coming from on such. When you say the structure will be moving away, remember that the governor that stands as the executive governor of Rivers State, Fasilai Joseph Fubara, is still a member of the People's Democratic Party. When we had our congresses, if you had listened, I believe your station was there to cover that program. You would have heard after the congresses, when the chairman gave his vote of thanks, he said clearly that he will work to see that peace returns to the party and that the governor remains our governor because we all voted for him to make sure he becomes governor of Rivers State. So talking about the structure being taken from the Minister of the FCT, our leader, Chief Vice Ian Wike, that is neither here nor there. He remains the leader of the party in the state, and that cannot be contested. Chief Vice Ian Wike remains the leader of the party in the state. But what I want to say, there are people that are here and there trying to be very, very, very greedy and are jumping to other parties and trying to think that by doing so, they would sway the governor to move with them. But he remains our governor. The PDP voted for him. He was our candidate. He was made governor, and we'll stand by what we have done. But we're saying as it concerns that election of 5th October, we are not going to be partakers of that election. And please, very quickly, I want to just clarify something that was done on your studio yesterday. There was a guest when this program was aired that came on, and he was announced as the vice chairman of the Rivers West Senatorial District. I want to make it clear here on record that the present vice chairman of the Rivers West Senatorial District is no other person than Honorable Shedrack Chukwu and not the guest that was in your studio yesterday. Congresses were held in Rivers State on the 31st. On the 31st of last month, 31st of August 2024, and your studio, your station rather, also covered those congresses.
But you do. I was waiting for you to land. It was corrected on air. Did you not see the correction on Politics Today?
Oh, well, that would be nice if it was corrected.
It was corrected
but I still need to, yes, I
All
need
right,
to
so
clarify
let's move on now to
so,
something.
yes.
Let's talk about something you brought up, because that's where I was going next. Before we look at Justice Enebeli and what he had to say, let's talk about the people from the PDP who are moving now to the APP. There are permutations out there that the reason why the APP secretariat has been bombed twice is because many people believe that the governor is going to defect to the APP. But then, of course, there's the issue where, you know, for many of these members of your party, they feel like, look, if the party is not going to let us take part in the election, well, that's the party's business. We're going to move. Many people consider these moves to be anti-party activities. Where do you stand as a party on that?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about the bombing incident of the APP secretariat. Well, the People's Democratic Party will not want to jump into conclusion because the security agencies have not given a full report on what took place. So it will be us jumping the gun to talk about what happened in the secretariat. But we will say clearly, as the spokesman of the party, I'll say clearly that we do not have any idea about anything that has to do with any bombing or any such thing. The People's Democratic Party is a very decent and a just party, and we stand by the pathway of truth. But one thing you should know is that people will always move around because they have these very greedy intentions, I'll call them, because when they see that they are not like in a party and they do not want to follow what we call the structure, the internal structure of the party, they want to jump to places where they think they can get things quickly done. And I can assure you, like we all know, prior to this time, I do not think anybody in the Federal Republic of Nigeria has heard about the APP as a party. What has been here, it's the PDP, the APC, and all other parties. But the APP has not been one that people have heard of. So when you talk about people moving there, if you look at even their flag that they had yesterday in the Southeast Senatorial District, it was very scanty because you're talking about 7 LGAs that should be there. It was scanty, and that is showing that the people are still living confused. Even their members, I remember one of their members speaking, he got confused about the logo of the party. He said it was an antelope when the logo of the party is actually an elephant. So you can see that they have not even been able to come through with what the logo of their party is. So it's something that we are not worried about. We know we are a solid party. We have the strength. We have the number, and we know that when it's time for any election and we come out, we are surely going to defeat any party that comes by our side.
Well, Dr. Yowika, let's move on now to something that may be a little problematic for the People's Democratic Party. And it's a statement from the chairman of the Rivers Independent Electoral Commission, RCEC, retired Justice Adolphus Enebeli. And he's saying that there is no legal impediment. There's nothing stopping these elections. In fact, he goes on to say that 18 parties are contesting in the October 5th elections. Over 300 contestants, he said. And he said the list of those candidates were going to be published yesterday. I don't know if you've seen that list. I haven't seen it. But what do you make of what he's saying? You know, because aren't you scared that you may lose out as a result of this?
No, we have never been scared. The People's Democratic Party, it's a solid party. We've never been scared. Well, we know that these people are going to be ditched very soon. I want to say very clearly that if you remember, there is a court case in the Federal High Court where judgment has been reserved. Justice Peter Lifu had reserved judgment. And if you remember, Taiwo appeared for the Attorney General of Rivers State in that suit. And Femi Falana also appeared for RISEC in that suit. If the chairman of RISEC in Rivers State is saying that he has not seen anything or he's not bothered about anything and elections are going on, then the simple question to ask will be, why did they make representation in the cases in the Federal High Court? That means they know that there is something that needs to be clear before they go for the election. But what I want to say is that these cases are in court. And as a decent party, we will not want to interfere or even make comments about cases that are in court. So for this issue concerning any case in court, I want to withhold my statement because that is what it is said to be, and that's what it's supposed to be. I will hold back my statement because these cases are still pending in court.
Retired Justice Enebeli actually says that the recent judgment of the Supreme Court, because that's where he's citing, that recent judgment of the Supreme Court has empowered INEC to conduct these elections. So basically that Supreme Court judgment supersedes whatever it is that you all are talking about. You don't think that's something to think about?
I do not think so. I do not think so at all. I do not think so at all. And I've said it very clearly that we wait clearly for the judgment of the Federal High Court, which is going to be passed by no other person than Justice Peter Lifu. That is what we stand on. We stand on this, and we will not partake in the 5th October election because, like I said, we're a law-abiding party, and we will remain so.
So talk to me about what that means. If the elections actually hold on 5th October, what does that say to the power structure in Rivers State? How does that affect how governance goes going forward?
I do not know how governance have been going. The entire problem in the state has been about the battle for the power structure in the state. Everybody has been talking about the soul of the party, power structure. But it's clear that we had our congresses, we had our leader, Chief Barrister Ian Wike, attend the congresses. If not for the little difficulty we have had, I would have showed you the program of activity of the Congress. You would have seen that on the pages of that program, we had the photograph of the national chairman and the photograph of the governor. And a seat was also reserved for the governor because I said he remains a member of our party. But unfortunately, he wasn't there to attend that Congress. The Congress was supervised by INEC. It was supervised by the entire team that is supposed to supervise this election. And at the end of it, those that came out victorious. And it has been ratified by the National Working Committee. And that is why I'm speaking to you today as the Public Secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State. So talking about whether it will affect us as a party or not, I assure you that it will not affect. If you look at the pictures that have been beamed by your station, you will see the mammoth crowd. I had close to 3,000 people that voted for me that day. And this is just the Congress that we just had. So when we come out for an election, I can assure you that it will be a swarm of bees that nobody will be able to control because PDP is a moving party in Rivers State, and it stands to be so.
Dr. Yowika, I mean, this impasse between Minister Wike and Governor Fubara, and even it's not just the PDP, even with the All Progressives Congress, we're seeing different voices. In your case, we're seeing people who are leaving the party to join the APP so they can take part in these elections. From the APC, we're seeing differing voices on the legitimacy of these exercises and whether they should participate in the elections or not. With all of these political wranglings, will there ever be a time, at least in the next few months maybe, or weeks, do you see some sort of peace? Do you see some sort of, isn't it a little exhausting? This war has been on for too long. Wouldn't it be nice to have some kind of consolidation? People keep talking about reconciliation, bringing people back. Will there be actual peace in this state when it comes to the governance and political structure in Rivers? Where do you see this going?
I can assure you, if you had listened after the Congress and even in the Hello?
Yes, Dr. Yowika, we can hear you.
Yes, if you had listened to the statement of the state party chairman after the Congresses, and even in the stakeholders meeting we had yesterday, he made it very clear that he will do everything within his powers to make sure that peace returns to the party. As an ESCO, we're giving all our support to our chairman, Honorable Chukwuemeka Aaron, DSSRS, to make sure that peace returns to the party. I made it very clear when I started this conversation that the governor of the state remains a member of our party, and we see him to be so. And whatever we need to do as a party to make peace come back to it, we will do. And that is why if you watch statements we have made, we'll be very careful about them. because we have to make sure that this party remains one indivisible party that remains strong and viable like it has ever been, under the leadership of Chief Barrister E.N. Wike, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory.
I mean, when it comes to these local government elections, one of the things that we all pushed for as a country was for governance to get down to those local levels, despite what the political wranglings might be. Let's talk about governance at the local levels in Rivers State. You don't think that elections are necessary to be able to uplift people out of poverty at that level, ensure security, see if we can get local levels more involved in the governance process, bring some development there? Are those things that are lacking in River State, or you think everything is fine, we can just go on without the elections?
There was no complaint about the issue of local government. Everybody wants the local government areas to be developed. That's what PDP stands for. You need to make sure that the communities within the local areas are developed. And if there is no leadership at the local level, then how do they get developed? But in as much as we want the local governments to be developed, we will not do that with illegality. When the issues of the CTCs came in, the party stood against it because it was unconstitutional. And thanks be to God that in a very short while, the Supreme Court ruled and said that it was unconstitutional, that there was nothing like caretaker committee known to law, and that elections should be held. And now, you could see that in as much as election will be held, there is a court case pending in the Federal High Court that some issues need to be cleared before those elections could go on swiftly. Like I said, I would not want to comment so much on the cases in court because I'll be doing an unjust thing to comment on issues that are still pending in court. But once things are done in the justified manner, the People's Democratic Party will always, always, and always stand by it.
It's just a few days to October the 5th. If the elections do hold, what do you want your members to be doing on that day? Where would you be?
For sure, I will not be there. I will not be partaking in the election. We've made this very clear. We've even sent all messages around all our members to sit at home because we will not partake in the election. We have said it. That's why the stakeholders meeting was held yesterday, to intimate our members that we will not be partaking in the election. So where I'll be, maybe I'll be playing tennis or I'll be playing golf on that day.
That's going to be a very interesting one. Well, we'll be watching to see how all of that unfolds. Just a final message. You are the publicity secretary of the party in Rivers State. Just a message to your people who are sending us all kinds of messages right now on social media as they're listening to you. As this particular impasse continues, what should they have at the back of their minds?
Well, they should continue to hold high the torch of the People's Democratic Party. It is one party that will always, always deliver them, no matter how milky the waters may be. The People's Democratic Party, led by our leader, Chief Barrister E.N. Wike, has never, ever disappointed them. And this once we are making another assurance that the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, led by Honorable Chukwuemeka Aaron, will not disappoint them. They should continue to hold high the torch of the People's Democratic Party.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Kenneth Yowika, Publicity Secretary of Rivers PDP. Thank you so much for being with us on the program. And good luck with all the things that you have ahead of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we have just a few messages before we wrap up. And of course, like we promised yesterday, we had quite a number of messages from you yesterday as well. We have just a few minutes, so I think I can run through some of them. They may not be able to show them on your screens right now, but, you know, we did give our word, and we like to keep our word. Oh, lucky, we have Festus's message on your screens right now. All right, so let's get to it. Festus Akim Boyewa, he says, this INEC, under the current chairman, conducted the last election in Edo State, which PDP won, even when APC was in power at the center. Now, the same INEC, under the same chairman, is now evil because PDP lost the recent election. Our politicians are funnily funny, he says. There you go. Festus Akimboyewa, thank you very much. I think we have this one from Pastor Law Alpha C. He says, these spate of electoral malpractices have become entrenched into our body polity. This is exactly what transpired in Edo recently, and it is dangerous for our democracy, and ultimately, the courts will be in search of convincing evidence. Then, of course, we have this other one from Professor Imono Kainakena. He was talking about the war. He said the Ukraine-Russian war has, from 2022, delivered an economic shock. Surging energy and food prices have led to sharply increasing interest rates as globally central banks struggle to contain the galloping inflation. For Africa, this means that the cost of borrowing is rapidly increasing. International markets are already given the flavor of what this will mean. It's quite a lot going on around the world and in Nigeria right now. But all we can tell you is stay put. All right, try not to lose your mind, protect your mental health, and be as law-abiding as possible. It's going to be okay. All right, so do that. I want to thank everybody for being with us on the program. Thank you for keeping us company here on Sunrise Daily. I'm Kayla Megwa. Have a great day ahead, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.